Please welcome Garland McWatters to the stage.
Well, thank you, Marion. Before we begin, I wish you would join me for just a second to take a deep breath and kind of relax a little bit and kind of sit up in your seat, put your feet on the floor, and just breathe in a deep breath. And then just let it out. I don't know about you, kind of sense a tingle up the back of my neck. Now that I have you relaxed, I'd like to engage your imagination for just a minute. What I'd like for you to do is to imagine yourself in a huge crystal sphere, a hollow sphere, suspended kind of in the middle of it. You can make that sphere maybe your favorite color if you'd like to. And once you have that vision of yourself in that sphere, what I'd like for you to do is just start filling that sphere up. I want you to fill it up with the things that you love. The people that are in your life that you love, your family and your friends, and of course your pets, all the things that you love, the places you like to go, the places you love to be, the things that you like to be about, the hobbies you might have, interests that you might have, causes that you support, things that where you find harmony and peace and happiness and joy and love. Bring all that into that sphere and then just enjoy it for a second and let that energy of all that love start to build within you. Let it grow and grow and grow until it kind of radiates out from you, and you can see the edges of that sphere starting to grow with your favorite color, shooting that light through it. And then all of a sudden, just let the boundaries of that sphere just go. Let them evaporate. And all of that energy that is your love and yourself, let it just shoot out in all directions at once. In the vastness and expanse of the universe, because you are larger than your physical self, let it go until you feel one with everything and it feels one with you, and that energy starts coming back to you. Relish it, because what you're experiencing is your life and influence. Because, as I said, you are larger than your physical presence. We ripple, we glow, we illuminate. Man, isn't that amazing? Just to think about that. You know, they introduced me as a teacher. And I love teaching. I've loved teaching all my life for some reason. And what I like about teaching, what I love about teaching, is watching that aha happen in the eyes of my students. And you know when it happens, you can see it. Their body shifts, their eyes change, they get this look in their face, and you can see something's going on. And you've had that aha yourself, and you can remember them. So today what I want to do is talk about those ahas and how they illuminate us and how they bring us into presence, things we learn about ourselves and about the world in which we live. I was reminded one time of a cartoon that it was an Old Miss Peach cartoon, I believe. I was thinking about it earlier today. And the cartoon was this football coach, this little league football coach, and he was standing there in front of his little leaguers, and he was holding up the football, and he told them, "Okay, guys, team, today we're going into our 5th game, and we haven't scored yet. So, this is a football. And the object of the game is to get the football across the goal line of your opponent." One of the little players turned to the other and they said, "Why has he been keeping this from us?" It's kind of like we didn't know what the purpose was. And in my life of teaching, what I've realized is how we don't always teach the basics enough. We don't let people know the underlying principles that are part of the things that we want them to learn. And sometimes the most simple things are the most important things to kind of reconnect with. So that's what I want to spend my time doing, telling you stories of reconnecting with your aha. I remember going to graduate school. My first management class was actually in graduate school because of my undergraduate work in Bible. We didn't have management classes in that discipline. I learned a lot of scripture, but not much about managing. And so when I went to that management class, I'd already been teaching for quite a few years, or working for quite a few years. And then the professor showed us some management models about human behavior and engagement and participation and things of that nature. And I looked at those models and I went, wow, boy, I wish I'd known this 3 years ago. I wouldn't have done what I did, or at least I would have a better idea of why I was doing it. The light came on. It was illumination to me. Things I hadn't really seen and connected. I had experience, but nothing to really connect to it, to understand it. And the light came on. And there was this young man sitting next to me, and he kind of nudged me, and he said, well, why do we need to know all this theoretical stuff? And I said, well, just wait. One day the light's going to come on. You're going to remember this class whenever you see the connection. So I got to thinking, what was some of my earliest remembrances of having these aha moments? When did I connect with something? And I went all the way back to my 9th grade, and that was a long way back at that time. All the way back to my 9th grade into my civics class. And what I remembered about my civics class was Thomas Jefferson, believe it or not. Now lately we've kind of find out that his life wasn't all we thought it was when I was 14. But back that time, I was introduced to the language of our Declaration of Independence, which basically said we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal and they're endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And that connected with me, and I said, wow, yeah, that's right. But I grew up in segregated Arkansas. And when I went out into the community, I heard all kinds of language and slurs and epithets and things like that directed at black people. And I heard the jokes and I listened to them and I learned them and I repeated some of them. But you know, I didn't know any of those black people that I was talking about, except for that one black woman who came over to our house every week to help my mother do the ironing. And when I looked at her, she certainly didn't match anything that I was hearing in the barbershops and the main streets and the casual conversations. And the words of Thomas Jefferson kept running through my mind sort of like a conscience and sort of just wouldn't let me go. We hold these truths to be self-evident. We're all created equal. The light came on. The second time that a light really came on for me was many years later. It was when I came sort of full face with the concept of God is love. Now, did I mention that I had been a minister? So God is love was not something that I knew. We sang it in church. Come let us all unite to sing God is love. Rolled off my tongue, week after week after week. But it wasn't as a Christian that this hit me. It was as a curiosity seeker in quantum physics. I got to reading about the quantum world, and what I learned from quantum science was that in the search for the elementary particles of the universe, we went all the way back to the smallest thing that we can find, and the scientists decided there isn't one. What we live in is a sea of energy and thought. A sea of energy and thought. We are bathed in it, we live in it, we manifest from it, we all come from it. Everything that is came out of this sea of thought and energy. And I thought, boy, that sounds a whole lot like God to me. Because this God that I learned about, growing up, was the God who is everywhere present, all powerful, all knowing, all the knowledge, and everything came from God. Why is science and God and religion talking about the same kind of thing here, at least in my mind? And that light came on. That light came on, and all of a sudden I realized, Thomas Jefferson was kind of right about the ideas that he had, these glorious, wonderful, all-expansive, God-including ideas that he had. But, I had to find some way to put those into practice. Suddenly I kind of had in my mindset, in the aha, I had this idea of science and spirituality coming together in this. Aha. And I thought, well, that just really makes all kinds of sense to me. It changed the way I thought about what I believed and why I believed it. Because I got to thinking, we say we live in a Christian nation, and we're real happy about that. We say that all the time, right? I heard it in my history classes. We were founded on Christian principles, on and on and on. And in the 1950s, well, we put our legislation where our mouth was, because the Congress passed a law that says we're going to insert the words "under God" into our Pledge of Allegiance, and we'll go one step further. We're going to actually write a national motto that says, "In God we trust." And we did that. So at that moment, we sort of put ourselves on notice. We put ourselves kind of at the center of the world stage, and we shined the light of accountability on us and said, looky here, we are a nation of love. Because after all, Jesus said everything depends on love. And then I moved to Tulsa. Moved to Tulsa 5 years ago, and in Tulsa, I learned for the first time after living in Oklahoma almost all my adult life, I learned in Tulsa that in 1921 there was a race massacre that I'd never heard about. In 35 square blocks called the Greenwood District, a place that was already a thriving, wonderful, creative culture of our black brothers and sisters, was burned to the ground one night and the next day by a group of white people from that community who burned it to the ground for who knows why. No real good reason. They just could, and they wanted to, so they did. And we spent 100 years trying not to talk about it, until all of a sudden it came to national prominence and national view, and we all had to deal with it together. And so, I say that not to start shaming and blaming, but to say when we are illuminated with things, sometimes what the light shows us is that dark side of us that we need to kind of work on, that we can fix and we can make better. Just like when the light shined on me as a young man and a young boy in Arkansas, I realized that what I'd been told wasn't true of the black people that I didn't know, but the black people that I did know were wonderful human beings. And I realized that where all this comes together, we come to a certain kind of place of realizing that there is this central principle of God out there, and the quantum scientists have kind of got together and they've talked about this. And I read one book just recently where they said, actually what we've come to believe is that God is love. God is love. I knew that. God is love. Like I said earlier, we sing it all the time. God is love. Science and religion have finally teamed up on that idea that God is love. And because God is love, we are all brothers and sisters of the human race, and we are all part of this same energy. We call it the God energy. I call it the God love energy, from which we came, in which you're all part and one the same. We are all actually the same. The same. Red and yellow, black and white, they're precious in the sight of God love. Why? Because God doesn't see the color. We are all one. And when I came to that realization, I realized, I need to talk more about that. I want to work that into the way I talk to people about their responsibilities as leaders and managers in the world. So I developed an idea which I call the empowered way, or living empowered. And the idea of the empowered was to call to our awareness people who every day are just finding that creative energy that they have within themselves that comes from God, this fullness of God that's in all of us. We all have it. Everybody has it. And that we're putting it to use to make the world around us just a little bit better. That's what an empowered person is. An empowered person is just sees something that needs to be done, and then just takes care of it. They just do it because they can. Because what we know is that in this energy that we have, this energy that you expressed yourself earlier as you shot it out into the universe, that is the energy of the universe. That is your energy. That is the power of God coming back to you, and you have it. You possess it in full measure. And those words are out of the Bible. Full measure of this power of God that you have access to. So why aren't we starting there? Why aren't we starting at that place? Because Jesus said, I can help you connect with that. And in our country we say we like to think that we live in a country of laws, but I'm just here to tell you that a law isn't good enough. The law, when you think about it, is the least allowable behavior before you get in trouble. And we change those laws all the time. They go up and down, and we elect people who will put the laws where we want them, so they change all the time. We need something else. We need this power of love radiating from us, through us, and out into our energy, into our communities, because that's where the battle is going to be won. If we demonstrate and show people what the power of love looks like and what it lives like, we change the heart, we'll start changing and elevating our spirits and our souls and our minds and how we can work together. And I really, really, really believe that, because I meet them all the time, and that's the people I put on my Spirit of Leading podcast. People that I believe who are elevating and living this spirit of living and this power that comes within them just to make the world a little bit better place. I call it Conversations with the Empowered. And so as we think about that, living empowered is just using that energy to make the world a better place. And I call the spirit of leading that energy of just a leader really is the person who tries to elevate and get the best out of everybody. Leadership is not about power, it's about influence. And leadership is about helping people find their way to their highest level of existence. And so when I talk to people about living empowered, I say, just simply join me on this empowered way. Just decide that you can find a way to live empowered. You don't have to join an organization to do it. You don't have to sign a code. You don't have to do anything special, except just decide it. Decide that you want to live in this empowered kind of way, this God-spirited, this all-encompassing, everybody is a brother and sister in the human race kind of way. And that if we start there, because that's where I start every one of my classes, acknowledging that each and every one of us has a life, and that life is as important to one person as to anybody else. Everyone's got a life. I don't care whether you're straight or gay, whether you are a Republican or a Democrat, what color you are, what God you actually worship, where you live, what language you speak. Nothing of that really matters. Everyone has a life, and that life is equally important to everyone as it is your life is to you. We have to start there. And when we start there, we can find a way to live empowered. Living empowered is simply recognizing that energy so that really deep down in your heart, you can begin to find ways to enliven your own heart, to enlighten your mind, to let the illumination come on, enlighten your mind. You can raise your own spirits, and you can enlarge your spirit, and you can enlarge the expectations of living in yourself and in others. So if you believe in that kind of change, if you believe that in that kind of change that the empowered can change the world, which I believe they can, and that's the kind of change you want to sign up for, that empowering, ever-present, God-present kind of change that you feel like can really change the world, all you have to do is just say, aha. Thank you.